Hello, Chattacon. I'm Brandy Bolgeo Hendren, your toast mistress, and I'm here with authors Christopher Woods and William Joseph Roberts, talking to them about all the fun things, including their latest collaboration together, Smuggler's Run, which is the 12th book in the Salvage title universe, based off the trilogy written by Kevin Steverson. So this is going to be a great panel. Buckle in. This is your first collaboration together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I thought.
Technically, I mean, we collaborated for the first 9 chapters of this.
Well, yeah, I mean,
was a short story in Through the Gate.
Yes. So this technically our second collaboration, but it's the same story.
So it's your latest collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With many more to come.
That's good.
It's too much fun not to.
So for those of you who might not know Chris and William, I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. William, why don't you start?
All right, I am William Joseph Roberts. I write sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and pretty much anything the evil mind scrolls demand of me, which the Smuggler's Run is going to be my 4th novel. Got a bunch of different things planned for this year with a couple of different series and some anthologies coming out, which if you follow me on my main webpage, you can see everything going on.
Very nice. All right, how about you, Chris? Introduce yourself.
All right, I'm Christopher Woods. I write science fiction, fantasy, mixes of science fiction and fantasy. I'm actually working on a Western too. So I've got quite a few different things that I work on. And the latest has been the collaboration with, I don't want to call him William either. I'm just going to call him Hillbilly because that's what I know him as. Anyway, the collaboration with Hillbilly called Smuggler's Run, and that's the most recent of our collaborations.
All right.
Well, you can find anything of mine on theprofessionalliar.com.
So you both come from very different backgrounds. So how did each of you become authors? Because that's always, I think, a very interesting thing to know. It's a very different story for every author I've ever met. So Chris, you go first.
It was close to 2008 when I started writing. It was right around when the economy collapsed. I was working in a factory, and we'd been cut back to 3 days a week, and I was living in my dad's attic. Couldn't afford to go anywhere, so I wrote from a story from a dream, and it ended up turning into Soulguard, a whole novel. And well, I mean, the what I planned for the novel ended up turning into 5 novels. So, but anyway, I found where I'm supposed to be. You know, I think that's the spot where I was destined to do was to be a writer.
I think we can all agree with that. So what about you, William?
I've been a writer for just about as long as I can remember, but actually learning how to go about the business of writing and actually getting things edited properly was the problem. Even during like grade school and junior high and high school, I was writing things, but none of my teachers could help me to hone the skills or to even figure out how to submit. And lo and behold, I went off into the military, jumped around the world, deployments and everything else, and ended up landing here after my military stint in Chattanooga. And I got together with the Chattanooga Writers Guild. And really, I spun my wheels a lot because what I was writing was similar to Robert Jordan and Robert Howard, Lovecraft, and the bleed marks that I got from all these people in the literary groups that were here in Chattanooga made no sense to me because I'd pull out a book and it's like, well, this is the way they did it. And then I have Michael Gantz to thank for turning me on to LibertyCon. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, because that first LibertyCon 30, the last year at the Choo Choo, that was really what changed the game for me. And in Charity Ayers, she had done a writer's workshop where we got to sit down and we wrote for 15 minutes and we read it out and all this and that. And I keep going back to that as that's what really kicked it off and set things into motion, because for whatever reason, I needed her to give me permission. Doesn't matter who in my family told me, my wife, anybody else, of how good I could write or how good my stuff was. She was a complete stranger and she gave me permission. And from there, it's been nuts. In the last year, I've got 4 novels in the last year, plus a couple of anthologies that I'm in. I'm running my own little publishing house. It's crazy how something as tiny as that, you can do this from somebody that you never met before. So that's how I've gotten to where I'm at right now.
That's a great story. I hear that. I have heard that a lot in the past with writers who might have started, not right out the gate, or writers as they become more and more successful. It's all about sort of that confidence in your own style, maybe. So, I mean, that's, I think that's been for a lot of people. Okay, so tell us about Smuggler's Run. Really what both inspired the story and just a little bit about the story itself. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Oh dear God. Smuggler's Run is a train wreck. You got 2 guys down on their luck that end up meeting up. Crap. How do you describe this? I don't even know how to describe it. It's a train wreck of circumstance and happenstance. These 2 guys end up getting ran out of almost every system that they're in, and it isn't even their fault half the time, or they're not sure that it's their fault. Well, no, Rip.
It's their fault.
It's Rip's fault. It's all Rip's fault, because he just can't keep it in his pants.
Well, that is true.
Wow.
Well, we do have one chapter that we shall not mention.
Chapter 24.
Yes. Really, the inspiration for Smuggler's Run is pretty much all the B-rate cheesy sci-fi that we grew up with and we loved. I mean, everything from Spaceballs to Ice Pirates and was it the Last Starfighter, Flight of the Navigator, you name it, and it all gets compiled in. Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Firefly. There's a little bit of everything in there, because that's the shit that we've grown up on. That's the shit that we love, and especially with the 80s stuff. You get into all the pop culture references that are in the book. How can you not? It's fun. It's nostalgic. And there was really no goal in this when we set out. It was fun. And the biggest part of it was he wrote a chapter and then I wrote a chapter. And each chapter we kept writing, we left the other one with some screwed up scenario they had to figure out a way out of. So we were trying to screw each other over. And it made it so much fun. We wrote half the book in a weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty fast.
We did a weekend at the lake at my mother-in-law's lake house. And we wrote literally half the book over that weekend, swapping chapters back and forth.
Well, and then we were going through the outline that we had, and we started looking at it. We had only gone through like 4 lines of our outline, and it was just random jotted down notes. We're like, wait a minute, hold on. And it was Sunday morning, and we're sitting there looking at it. It's like, okay, well, if we do this here,
Trilogy.
We got a trilogy.
Oh, that's not a bad thing.
No.
Which, I mean, we're starting the second one in about 2 weeks. We're doing another weekend at Nana's Lake House.
Yeah, that's about right. About 2 weeks from now, we'll kick off Smuggler's Quest, is what we've tentatively titled it. But it's a matter of just having fun. We didn't really even have a goal when we set out to start writing it, and before you know it, it's like, holy crap, what are we doing? And we're laughing the whole time through. It's like, okay, here's my chapter. Go ahead. What are you doing? And he'd just look up at me like, what the hell did you just write? Like, just keep reading. No. Oh my God. What is this?
So Chris, how was it collaborating with William? Obviously,
It was-
you're okay with it. You're going to do it again.
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was. I haven't collaborated with many people. I've written a book with Chris Kennedy, and I've written a book with Hillbilly here, and I had so much fun with this book that, I mean, I'm ready to go right at it again. It was really fun. We got the same kind of sense of humor, and that helps.
That's not a good thing though.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna go with sick there. I'm gonna go with
Yeah,
that works.
yeah.
Wait,
We have to rein it in so all the way down the paths that the squirrels are hollering for. You know, people are not going to buy it.
Well, yeah, keep it just a little bit under wraps, right? A little bit, just a little bit, just skosh.
Yeah, just a little bit. But it was fun. It was very fun.
one of the best parts of Smuggler's Run is it doesn't matter how far out we are from have written the first one. Every time we get together and start talking about it, or we get on the phone and start talking about it, we're both laughing our asses off. We just start talking about these little scenes and scenarios and like, well, we could do this, we could toss that in there next, and we're laughing. I'm sitting there gut chuckling. I don't dare take a drink of anything. And
I mean,
it's by far the funnest book that I've had any part in writing. It's hands down.
and what was it? When we wrote it initially, we both agreed people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. There's not going to be any in between. And so far, we've had 24 5-star reviews, and then we get this 1 2-star, but there's no review. It's just a 2-star rating. It's like, really? You're going to give us a 2-star, but not tell us why?
Thing. You're going to love it or you're going to hate it.
so are you both selling it on your website?
Yeah. Well, linking it back to Amazon.
Linking it back to Amazon, yes.
And I have been pushing it hard for the last week. What was it? Yeah, somebody decided he wanted to dress up like his character Rip. So come on, explain it. Come on.
He's a dandy. He's a womanizer and a gambler. And well, the beginning of the story, he loses his ship in a card game, along with a night of passion with a Davini smuggler.
I did read that.
Who he ends up finding out Davini is equipped with a little bit more of a package than what he expected. So he had to run. So this Davini smuggler's chasing him, trying to chase him down with her bodyguards, and that's when he runs into Van, and that's Rip. That's Rip everywhere he goes. Everywhere the man goes, something happens. He gets chased by the bodyguards.
And then of course, oh, sorry.
No. I mean, it sounds awesome.
Well, and I started thinking about it, and I know one of the kids had this trucker hat. They had the John Deere trucker hat, and I went hunting for it, and I can't find it. And I figured since he's got to dress up and all that, best I could do was my old Chevy cap. But I got one better for you. I am going to just go ahead, and I was a very proud owner of this way back in the day. And if it will let me share my screen, I will show you.
Oh, you're going to give us the mullet.
So, yes.
Oh my.
That, my friend, is Van Hagar.
my wife calls it the Rebel Without a Clue. And yes,
wow.
I had the metal tip boots and the mullet going on.
I have that jacket. I'm not kidding you. I still have that jacket.
Well, do you remember the leather key ring? Yeah. So, I figured I'd go ahead and embarrass myself. Yes, I was a proud owner of a mullet.
That is fantastic.
I love those glasses now. I want some of those glasses now.
I just like this whole getup deal. So I had always wanted a leather jacket when I was a teenager. I was a huge Motley Crue fan and all this and that. My parents were very frugal, so I was not getting anything fancy. So Derek, he saved up money and like, I don't know, this maybe the second Christmas we were together, he buys me this leather jacket. The problem is, because I was tiny, problem is he bought me like because it had all the zips and buckles and all that. It was a man's jacket. It was a male jacket. So even now I can put it on and it's a little bit too big for me and not form fit. But of course he bought it for me. So I wore it for years and it just looked utterly ridiculous. I look back now and think this looks ridiculous. But I still have it because I keep thinking that at some point this thing's going to come back into fashion. I'm going to have it cut down to be a woman's jacket because, you know, we can do that now. You know, I have the money to actually cut it down to be a women's jacket, but so far it has not come back into style. And I'm going to see Motley Crue and, you know, Poison, that huge concert that's going to be in Atlanta, but it's going to be in August, so it's going to be too hot to wear it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the fun things that we had lacing little things like that in there because, you know, what was it? Smuggler's universe is, or I mean, the Salvage universe is like 3,000 years in the future.
8,000.
Is it 8,000? Well, and see, Van, he was raised by aliens, but he wanted to know where humans came from. So he started researching, and in all his research, he started going down through the different eras, and then he came across the 80s. And he fell in love with everything that was the 80s, including the ostrich skin boots, the full denim outfit, and, you know, the bands like, what was it, Def Zeppelin and
Guns and Rodents.
Yeah, Guns and Rodents,
Nice.
and you know,
Motley Crue and Ozzy the Batman.
It's horrible takes on the actual stuff. You know, we're playing parody and we're playing with a lot of nostalgia, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
And well, we started thinking, well, I started thinking, I think, I don't remember whose idea it was, that there are so many references of pop culture in here that I'm filing for a Guinness World Record.
Oh my.
Why not? And we've already started going through. We've had the editor. She is an absolute fan. She's been sending me notes. Hey, what if you added this in? Hey, what about that? It's like, okay, cool. That's going on the list. But she did the first run, and we're going to do our runs through when we do our read through to refresh ourselves where we were, and take count of all the pop culture references all the way through the novel. And then I'm going to submit it to Guinness, and we'll see if we make a world record or not.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. I mean, that's just something that's something different to be able to put on. You know, you can put it on future releases.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's a shits and giggles. Why not?
See, I like that because I mean, I think that just, you know, is another thing to differentiate your product, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I think that's really cool. Of course, then it will appeal to everybody who's our age because, you know, we are I don't know, I'm a late 70s, early 80s baby.
We are 80s
as far
kids.
as, you know, when I was a teenager. So there you go.
Yeah. So far, everybody in our age bracket has loved it.
Yeah. God, yes.
See, I cannot. I gotta order this deal. So I have not read any other books in the series. Can I just start here?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm gonna do.
The only tie to Salvage system it's got is they go through Salvage system one time, and that's actually one they don't get chased out of.
Yeah.
So Chris and William, thank you again for taking the time to catch up with us. And Chattacon, make sure that you check out Chris and William's books, which can be found on WilliamJosephRoberts.com or ThreeRavensPublishing.com. So you can find Chris's books at theprofessionalliar.com. Hope you enjoyed this panel. Hope you asked all the questions online with Discord, since we are here answering your questions and just enjoying your lovely comments. If you have any other questions that you think of later, just let us know. Have a great weekend, Chattacon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Podium Publishing presents This Fallen World, Book 1 of the Fallen World series, written by Christopher Woods, performed by Mark Boyette. Epilogue. Simon Bletchley awoke with a start. There was a wetness on his face. He reached out and turned the lamp on beside the immense canopy bed. He looked up to see the canopy sagging as it dripped on his face. He wiped his hand across his face and it came away red. He started to scream just as the canopy split, and the heads of all of his lieutenants cascaded down over him. His screech was cut short as a hand seized his throat. "Hello there," a voice whispered to him. "I don't think we've been formally introduced." "Kid? Not today, Simon," the voice answered. "Stephen Gaunt at your service. We have so much to talk about." I walked across the floor to the vault I had built into the solid concrete of the platform. I turned the dials to open the vault door. I pulled the various pieces of the imprinter from my pockets and lay them on a shelf. Then I took the database from another pocket and placed it on a shelf with the other 5. Some things never should have been created, and never should be where people could get to them. I left my vault and began to doctor the wounds I had received. The quick healing from the alterations was a great boon to someone in my line of work. Perhaps I would soak in the huge tub for a while. Cade had been on her mind a lot lately. Swish! Too much for her comfort. Ths! Cade. How was he still alive, especially after the last days? And why did it even matter to her? But it did, didn't it? Shap! The head of the practice manic went flying as she twisted the katana blade at just the right moment. She didn't stop moving as the sword came back around and ended up in the scabbard at her side, without seeming to slow from the killing stroke. She loved the katana. It had been her mother's before the fall, and rested in a place of honor with its twin when not on her side or across her back. She placed it in the wooden wardrobe and closed the dark-grained door with a smile. For some reason, the thought of Cade gave her the same feeling as the thought of her mother. While not exactly the same, she thought with a wry grin. "One of my weaknesses," she said quietly, "of which I have far too many." A throat cleared across the room, and she came back to full realization of her surroundings out of the heightened awareness of the fight. While in the practice session, she felt and saw everything around her. She had felt Poe as he came up to the door and patiently stopped to wait for her to finish the bout. She had immediately dismissed him as a threat and continued on to contend with the manics that attacked her from the floor and ceiling. 7 this time. A good workout coming right after the half-hour of parkour training in full armor. "What's up, Wilson?" she asked the big man. He was recovering from his wounds nicely. "You have a visitor from the T's, ma'am," Poe rumbled, with head bowed. The T's were a tunnel system that ran beneath a large part of the city. After the bombings that led to the fall, it had been blocked off. That was the story that everyone believed. The Society of the Sword knew better. She had known of the system for several years now and had dealt with the Mardens that inhabited the dark, damp labyrinth. She did an occasional favor for them and provided certain foodstuffs that they had no access to, and they provided information and safe passage when needed, when it did not endanger their secrecy. "Must be important for them to send an emissary above ground. Any idea what it's about?" She leapt effortlessly up from the sunken training area, plucking a damp towel from the rack on the way. "No, ma'am. Only that it was of interest to you, and that you would want the info immediately." "Well, let's go see what's so important." Teresa Minora, matriarch and absolute leader of the Society of the Sword, said with a small smile. "Maybe they want a chapter house open there." "That's possible," he said. "Nothing would surprise me after Bletchley's one remaining lieutenant came in asking for a chapter house when he couldn't find all the pieces of his boss. But I think it's unlikely, since I don't think Cade has a beef with the T's." "Bletchley deserved it," she said. "I swear, Cade's like a great big cat. He brings what he thinks are gifts to my doorstep." "Sounds about right," he said. "We have 4 decent-sized zones to run now. Kinda makes you wonder what will happen when he goes on another rampage." "Who knows?" she answered as she approached the door to the meeting hall and motioned for Poe to enter.
Flux Runners by William Joseph Roberts. Narrated by Brian Stansbury. "We're receiving a transmission from the Veronica," Terry announced. "Put it through," Wills ordered. "Glorious Mouse, this is the Veronica. Come in, please." "Glorious Mouse here. Go ahead, Veronica," Wills replied. "Rachel is sending over the flight plan now. Since we aren't sure what our actual effective range is, make sure that you stay within 100 meters of the Betty." "Course transmitting now, Cap," a female voice added over the comms. "I've got it," Jeffrey said. "Captain Rackham," Captain Wills continued, "what is it that will happen should we deviate from the prescribed flight path? Is there some sort of debris or some other hazard that does not show up on the charts? We have nothing showing on our sensors." "Honestly, Captain Wills, we aren't completely sure ourselves," Doug said. "We still have a lot of testing to carry out on this ship's systems. You'll have a better understanding very shortly. If you'd like a front row seat with clear skies, please have your helmsman take up the point position when you lay in your course." "Copy that, Captain Rackham. We'd be honored to take point and continue on course. Glorious Mouse, out," Captain Wills proudly stated. "Course laid in, and we are now in the lead. But this is strange," Jeffrey said. "The course takes us hard upspin, and in approximately 50,000 clicks, it just ends. There's nothing at all out there on this course per the charts. No asteroid or comet or anything. Or, well, at least nothing that we know of." "That doesn't matter in the end," Captain Wills stated coolly. He stood from the captain's chair and propped his foot on the helm console, his crotch uncomfortably close to Jeffrey's face. "You see, Jeffrey, Master Barrington wanted us to keep a close eye on this bunch and find out any juicy intel that he could use to his own advantage. We'll quietly play their game until we have what we need and the opportunity to return presents itself. But in the meantime, we have a mission. Turn on the recorder, Terry. I'm feeling inspired." "Uh-huh," Terry grunted at Wills. "Go ahead and knock yourself out, buddy. The recorder is running." Wills returned and stood behind the captain's chair. "Captain's log," he began. "We are on a mission of chance and glory. Our benefactor, Master Barrington, has handpicked each of us for this mission. His trust in us will not go unrewarded." "More like we were the only suckers available on short notice," Terry said sarcastically. Wills scowled at the back of Terry's head. He straightened his flight suit, crossed his arms, and continued as he began to slowly pace about the bridge. "Success in this could mean fame, fortune, even recognition for myself and my crew of loyal servants." "Loyal servants?" Terry turned in his seat and glared at Wills. "Do you believe this arrogant jackass, Jeffrey? Why we ended up under his command on this run, I'll never understand." He turned back to his console and angrily tapped at the controls. Wills cleared his throat, then continued. "Disheartened mutiny is always a risk with such an endeavor. With a high-priority mission such as this, tension will be high. Nerves will become frayed. I can only hope that it does not come down to execution of Executive Order Gamma Phi. Truly, that would be the act of a desperate man. Captain out. Do you even know what all of that meant that you just puked out of your mouth? Terry and Jeffrey both turned in their seats, scowling at Captain Wills. Captain, Ashton shouted. There's something really strange happening. I think the Veronica is producing a variable layer high-frequency field. Maybe this is part of what they were talking about, Terry said. Possibly. Keep a close eye on the instruments and record all data, Wills ordered. Should we be worried about radiation with this new field? It's actually really weird, Captain. I've never seen a field like this before, Ashton shouted as she continued to head bob to the tune of her own drum. Terry leaned over and pulled one side of Ashton's headphones away from her head. You're shouting at us, he shouted, then let go of the headphone. OMG, what? Rude much? She glared at Terry as she cringed away from his invasive touch. Is there radiation or such that we should be worried about? Terry shouted. What? She screamed as she removed her headphones. Is there radiation or such that we should be worried about? Terry repeated. She looked taken aback. Why didn't you just say that in the first place? Quickly, she tapped out a series of commands on her console and reviewed the data. No, not that I can tell. But there is a strange anomaly just ahead that we are going to impact within 3. Anomaly? 2. Impact? 1. In the space of a fractional second, the image on the main view screen suddenly shifted from a perfectly normal star field to an asteroid field orbiting within the glow of a red giant. What just happened? Wills gasped. They all stared at the view screen with amazed wonderment, when suddenly the eerily alien panorama vanished, replaced by the patched and red-painted belly of an extremely large craft that filled the view as the collision klaxon screamed at the crew.